Hello, 'tis I. I'm still in my goth glam Lydia Dietz makeup that my patrons requested, and today we are doing goth glam Lydia Dietz takes on Handbook for Mortals by Lanny Sarem. Today we're finally talking about it, Lanny Sarem's book that she scammed the New York Times bestseller list for 23 hours. This video was commissioned by Christopher, who also commissioned After and The Mister, so everybody thank Christopher for me having no brain cells left. We're running on fumes and pettiness up here. Also Monster Rehab. Where is my monster? It's too far. I'll get it later. Here's the synopsis for Handbook for Mortals. By the way, if you have not seen my book, oh my god, my video about how this woman scammed the New York Times bestseller list with this book, it is linked in the first thing down below. No, I have not watched any of the videos that y'all keep talking about, the generally pooky one, or who's the other one? I know they are there. I want to watch them so bad, but the problem is that I didn't want to, first of all, I didn't want to accidentally like watch them and then say something similar. Like I'm always afraid I'm gonna like forget that somebody else made a joke and then like think I made it up myself because I'm really stupid. I didn't want to do that, and I had already watched years ago Caleb Joseph's video on this book, and I vaguely remembered some details, and I didn't want to remember any more details until after I finished this and after I finished filming this. So after I finish filming this video, then I will head over and watch those videos. I swear to God, it's on my list. All of them are in a to be watched list. Okay, here's the synopsis. Zade Holder has always been a free-spirited young woman from a long dynasty of tarot card readers, fortune tellers, and practitioners of magic. Growing up in a small town and never quite fitting in, Zade is determined to forge her own path. She leaves her home in Tennessee to break free from her overprotective mother Della, local resident spellcaster and fortune teller. Zade travels to Las Vegas and uses supernatural powers to become part of a premier magic show led by the infamous magician Charles Spellman, no relation to Sabrina. Zade fits right in with his troupe of artists and misfits. After all, when everyone is slightly eccentric, appearing normal is much less important. Behind the scenes of this multi-million-dollar production, Zade finds herself caught in a love triangle with Mac, the show's good-looking but rough around the edges technical director, and Jackson, the tall, dark, and handsome and charming band leader. That's it. That's the synopsis. Did you notice how there's really no plot? No stakes? Yeah, that's the book. Hello, 'tis I. You know what time it is. It is Trash Can Rachel reporting on the fact that I have Therapy Bills patrons to thank. So thank you for being a friend to my Therapy Bills patrons, and those are Amanda, Ashley, Claire, Des Roberts, Epix Hope, Eric, Harley, Jack and Jill, John E, Kelly K, Quinn, Lee, Lex, Lunar Stargazer, Molly, Mrs. Kittybug, Rain, SJ, Samara, Scarlett, Shiny, Sierra, Tori, and Zachary. Thank you all so much for being a friend. Book opens from an introduction, with an introduction from a romance author named Skye Turner, who I've never heard of. Why did she do the introduction? No idea other than she knows Lanny. She describes Lanny as a bit of a G-splurge soul, so that's great. One of us is technically Catholic who doesn't believe in or practice a lot of the hoopla associated with it, so Christian is how they're titled. And the other is Jewish. We're also very much alike. Okay. She says that they met because my friends were super fans of the series Twilight and one of the actors in the films, so she started a Facebook page for fun. They were all hanging out in like Louisiana, where I guess they were filming part of Twilight, and it says while filming was happening, the band played a concert in town to raise money for a local school in need, and I guess that's how she met Lanny, because Lanny works with bands. This will be important later. Well, not important, but relevant. Nothing's really important here. It's Handbook for Mortals. Oh, wait, I should make a joke here. I'm wearing Lydia Dietz makeup. Handbook for the recently deceased. Handbook for Mortals. I don't know what joke to make here. I'm just gonna draw a comparison. There we go. God, I wish I was reviewing Handbook for the recently deceased. She talks about how Lanny wrote screenplays, and she was thinking of publishing the screenplay for this book, which was previously a screenplay, and so Lanny asked her a few questions about the process of publishing a book, and Skye Turner shared what she learned about the book world. It's always interesting to me hearing about people, and this has happened a lot lately, where people bring up the book world, but they're in like a sect of the book world that I don't even know about. I'm like, wow, is this the multiverse? Skye talks about the book's plot, and said two men that the main character is drawn to who both call to her on different levels. Levels of what? As an author myself, I tend to be a bit snobbish about books, she says. And honestly, I wish she'd get more snobbish, because she says, "This is a book I loved. Handbook for Mortals is a book I cannot wait for you to read. I see big things ahead after all. Who can resist succumbing to a little magic?" If this was magic, this book, I did resist. In fact, I felt a little bit repelled by it, to be honest. This is not the worst thing that I've ever read. This book's biggest flaw is that it's just kind of cringy and gives you secondhand embarrassment. It's not like problematic like a lot of other shit I read. This is by no means any like Pawn and the Puppet situation. It's just like light lark level stupidity. The book opens with a quote that says, blah blah blah, "Without the dark we would never see the stars," by Stephanie Meyer. But I can only assume it's not Twilight Stephanie Meyer, because she spells her name not with an A at all. And if you're gonna print a quote by someone in a published book, I would assume you'd check that kind of thing first, but not Lanny. It's written in first person for the most part, so we're listening to our main character Zade talk, which is a nightmare. By the way, her first name is actually Scheherazade, but she goes by Zade and hates when people mispronounce her name, even though her name is Scheherazade, not Scheherazade, but that she goes by Zade. But then how else would Lanny have the opportunity to talk about how she hates when people mispronounce her name? Anyway, yeah, by the way, this is just a self-insert, and Lanny admitted to that, which not all self-inserts are bad. I've just never read a good one. That's not true, I just read a good one. Sparrows by Rose Petit is actually based on her life. It's like semi-autobiographical, so that's not bad. But like this is not good, because she says just like it's just the author creating a version of herself that she really likes and would like to be, and it's kind of cringy. Book opens, "I've always envied those with normal lives. I don't think I've ever had a normal month, a plain week, or an average day at best. I've had brief normal moments here and there. They tend to be few and far between. I'm sure most people would envy me, but some days I think I'd trade places in a heartbeat. To me, those moments..." Stop it. Stop. No more. This is not how you start a book. This is not how you write anything. This is bad, like 12-year-old me on MySpace. Zanga writing bad fanfic, okay? That's what this is. She says, "My perfectly cut bangs stayed mostly unaffected by the wind except for a few squirrely pieces." By the way, her hair is described exactly as Lanny Saram's hair was at the time of writing this book, and you can see it on the cover here, as well as this picture of Lanny. So the self-insert continues. She says she has Converse high-top sneakers, jeans ripped in all the right places, so right in the butthole. "People tell me I'm pretty all the time, beautiful even. I'm sure in your fantasy they do." Not to say Lanny Saram is ugly, it's just like, why would you write that into a book? Like, that's just so fucking weird. She's also not like other girls because she likes thunderstorms. I've always loved thunderstorms. Most people prefer sunny days and puffy white clouds, but not me. I hope for thunder so loud it makes the ground shake. Edgy. "My family has owned the land in this place since the early 1700s, and my ancestors basically established the little town called Centertown, Tennessee. Personally, I would never admit to such a thing. I would never admit that my ancestors established a town in Tennessee in the 1700s. All the implications with that are bad. I would never admit to it." Also, she didn't need to admit to it because it's completely irrelevant for the story. We never learn about anybody, not a single person in this town besides her mother and her. And her mother shows up in the beginning of this book and then shows up in the end. The town of Centertown is completely irrelevant. In small towns like ours, a lot of people believe that folks like my mother come from the devil. It's the silliest thing I've ever heard. That's the silliest thing you've ever heard? I mean, I've read this whole book and I can tell you I've heard a lot sillier. "I rarely think this, but I wish a photographer had taken my picture at that moment." She's getting ready to leave her small town and she says, "I rarely think this, but I wish a photographer had taken my picture at that moment." You rarely think it, or you never think it? So you've thought this before? You like randomly hope that a photographer will come take a candid picture of just you? I feel like that's weird. I don't know. Maybe I'm the weird one and that's a normal thing that people think. She describes her mom as, "She never looked like she was rushing or running, but instead floating gingerly. But I haven't felt like I've been able to live much in this life. That's all I'm trying to do, I guess. Just live." Wow, profound. They get into a weirdly stilted argument about her leaving town, and she says, my exasperated question was sincere. and sounded more like a plea than a question. You used question twice in one sentence in the beginning of the book and you didn't fix it? I don't understand. She also randomly has this like inner monologue that goes on for a long time about random shit, and in one part she's talking about how she had like dyslexia and then she learned to write fast in both directions, and I'm like, you learned to write backwards? I don't know, that's not how my dyslexia works. But alright. I chewed hard on my lip, a nervous tick of mine that I did so often I had a permanent dent on my bottom lip. I feel like that's just Lanny talking about herself. Also, you have a permanent dent in your bottom lip? What does that mean? Because lip skin tends to grow back. Anyways, moving on. She also says, I'm a pretty good actress. And at this point I was like, Lanny, why don't you just erase this entire book and print a page that like a bunch of pages that just says the link to your IMDb page. Just do that. She's again having this like stilted weird non-argument with her mother, and she says, haven't you ruined enough of my life? Because her mom doesn't want her to go to Las Vegas. I immediately want to take it back. I didn't mean it. Why had I said that? I don't know. I don't know why you're saying any of this. It's very weird. She gets in her car and runs away from home, essentially, even though she's like a whole ass adult who's like 25 years old, and she's sitting in the car and it says the opening lyrics to the Dixie Chicks song Wide Open Spaces plays. I couldn't help but laugh at how truly that was my anthem at the moment. I took it as a sign I was doing the right thing. As I drove away, I sang along to the song, and then it prints like all of the lyrics to the song, and then she explains, even the high stakes reference was perfect considering that I was headed towards Las Vegas. Yes, perfect. Almost as if it were fiction. She gets to Vegas, she gets to the circus show performance thing that she's doing. And she does some sort of like act audition where she, I don't know, jumps into water or something and then emerges with rows between her teeth. I don't know, it's very weird. All of the circus shit is very weird. And she talks about how like everybody's wearing stage show blacks. I've always found something handsome about a man in show blacks. Perhaps it's the artsy answer to a man in uniform. Wait, when would you in your small Tennessee town have seen a man in show blacks? Like, I'm so confused. And then she sees the man himself, Sabrina Spellman's not uncle, Charles Spellman. I once read an article that said you can tell somebody's personality by the way they walk and carry themselves. Okay. A tall man with dark hair walked toward the door. A tall man with dark hair. Very descriptive. Excellent. I can visualize it so well. That man was the infamous magician to whom the theater basically belonged, Charles Spellman. I would describe him in a similar way that one might describe Harrison Ford. You would think that she then would go on to elaborate how Charles Spellman and Harrison Ford are similar. You would be wrong. You would be wrong. She does not. She does not elaborate. So I am guessing that all she wants you to do is just imagine that Charles Spellman is Harrison Ford. Got it. Han Solo is the magician man. Cool. She talks about his outfit instead of explaining how he is similar to Harrison Ford, saying, the shirt was tailored and had wide stitching with beautiful and intricate cufflinks that complemented it perfectly and looked to be made out of pure gold. How effortless he made casual and confident look. Effortless? Ma'am, you just said intricate cufflinks made out of pure gold. That's not effortless. Those are what man who doesn't want to make an effort is wearing solid gold cufflinks? Everything you say makes no sense. And then she shockingly brings up the thing that I already knew, which from Caleb Joseph's videos, which, spoiler alert, Charles Spellman is her daddy, not in a sexy way. It's her biological father. What's your name? Who's your daddy? Is he rich like me? She brings up her non-existent father right then, as if like Lanny thinks that that's some sort of foreshadowing. Anyway, she says, I knew very little about my father and even less about father-daughter relationships, but even I knew that daughters don't stand like that next to her fathers. Talking about the girl standing next to Charles Spellman, Sophia, who just has like a sour look on her face and says, I got the vibe instantly that she wasn't even one bit happy that I was there. This is the laziest attempt at writing girl hate, unnecessary girl hate, that I have seen today. date. And I've seen a lot of it. And then she goes on to describe people so weirdly. And these people, like, you rarely see them. So it says, one of the many texts in black whose name I would later learn to be Tad. Why didn't you just have a scene introducing him? Oh, because he's not important. By the way, a lot of these people in like the book, they all have names that are 3 letters. I don't know why. I don't know what is up with that, but she really likes that for some reason. Like Zeb and Tad and Mac, and I think there's one named Cam. I don't remember. There was a lot, and they all like fall by the wayside. They like stop being important. Like you think that they're going to be plot relevant, and then they end up not being plot relevant because there is really no plot here. She sees another guy who ends up being Mac. He says his sandy blondish hair framed his face perfectly, and his hazel eyes seemed to sparkle. He was slender and tall, definitely 6 feet, if not an inch or so more, with just the right amount of muscle on his arms. Just the right amount of muscle. I wonder if that means this. And she says, I noticed that he carried a clipboard and learned shortly after that he was the technical director for the show. Why do you keep doing that? Like, I learned later, after I'm currently narrating to you, that he was so-and-so for the show. Why? Why do you keep doing that? Then she meets Zeb Zagan, head illusion technician or head magi. He has been with me for over 20 years, Charles Spellman says. And here, when he got introduced, I thought that this guy was going to be like the bad guy. No. He just is rude, and that's it. There's no arc. She then says that she meets like the costume lady or the, I don't know, hair lady? I don't know, some sort of appearance lady for the show, and they have a conversation, and then she stops telling you about the conversation. When she's leaving, she says, I could tell you anything, practically anything about her, including what she had eaten for breakfast, and no, I'm not even joking about that one. She had had scrambled eggs with cheese, turkey bacon, whole grain toast, and some homemade mango jelly. How dare you not write a plot and then write that sentence? How dare you, ma'am? So then we get introduced to another part of our love triangle, Jackson. He says, I know who you are. I actually came up and talked to you right after your audition. I was one of the many fawning over you. I'm Jackson Millsap. I feel like Millsap is an anagram for something, but I don't know what. And it says, his grin revealed 2 rows of perfect white teeth. All I processed was Jackson. He plays in the band for the show. This guy is, I'm assuming, if I understand, if I'm using the context clues of Lanny's life, is Jackson Rathbone, who played in a band that Lanny worked with and also played Jasper in Twilight, which Lanny, as we know from the intro, is a big fan of. And Jackson is the most cringy love interest of all time because he makes the worst jokes that Lanny thinks are so funny, and I'm dying inside. Honestly, Jackson Rathbone is probably so embarrassed by this because he doesn't even like her, which we got from context clues that I put in my video about her with the New York Times shit. He says things like, well, until you convince Charles to let us play our own stuff instead of the tired show music, you and Leona Lewis's ears will just keep bleeding. Why? So she strikes up this flirtatious thing with Jackson and then has this like enemies to lovers thing with Mac, the technical director, where he's like, oh, I can't stand her. Randomly it'll switch out of first person POV for Lanny and then switch into third, and we get how Mac is feeling, like what his POV is, and he's watching her change at one point, which I was like, oh, well, that's fucking creepy. And then he also makes a joke to somebody else about murdering her when she hasn't done literally anything except she marginally annoys him because she doesn't tell him how she performs her tricks, and he's worried about that leading to OSHA violations. And I'm like, wait, but wouldn't she have thought of that before joining the Knot Circus? Like, she would have had to think like, oh, how am I going to explain to these people that I'm doing these tricks? No, not in Lanny's world. Circus. Oh, by the way, remember when I reviewed Poison Princess and it was like weird about the tarot deck, the major arcana? All the chapters in this are named after the major arcana. So at least Lanny, I guess, knows more about the major arcana than Cresley Cole does. That's the nicest thing I can say about Lanny's tarot. Sophia the mean girl is not the only mean girl. Every girl is rude, except Zade, of course. And anybody like who is doing their job that, you know, can help Zade. So like women working at stores or women working at like doing Zade's costuming. Girls are talking shit about her, and Jackson, one of her 2 love interests, the cringy one, says, I think she's much hotter on the outside as well as the inside. Then this is after the girls say, you think you're hotter than us, to Zade, and I'm like, oh my god, I've never cringed. I have not cringed so hard since I first ever watched that episode of The Office called Scott's Tots. If you know, you know. That was this level of cringe. It says in the book, we rehearsed all the time. It's a huge show that has constant changes, but we rarely see these rehearsals and we never see the changes. So I have no idea what she's talking about. Like, this is the most underutilized circus I've ever seen. And magic like randomly comes up. So like at one point, Sophia, the mean girl, did not wear her harness, and Zade had had a vision before knowing that like something bad was going to happen to somebody, but she wasn't sure who. Sophia falls and she gets hurt, but not as badly hurt as she could have been because like Zade prevents it from being even worse. Sophia gets a concussion. Sophia and Charles Spellman break up. Sophia tries to hit on Mac, one of the two love interests. It's stupid and messy, and all of this is not a plot. It's not a plot. Needless drama is not plot. There's like, again, very rare times where we actually see the circus or magic with like crowds, but there is a lot of band stuff. And again, this is a self-insert because Lanny in real life works with maybe still bands, including Blues Traveler. So, but another one, which I'm gonna say in a second. So she says that they're going to see a band, and it starts saying stuff like this. I wondered if it was alternative or Americana, or hopefully not metal, which wasn't something I really liked listening to. Okay, well, first of all, good for you, I guess. Well, I like metal, so eat me. Ew. Cringe. So do you want to guess which band it is that they're going to see? I'll just tell you. No, it's not a fictional band. It's the Plain White Tees. Oh, it's what you do to me. And I'm not saying that she said, oh, we went and saw the Plain White Tees. No, they go in this book of fiction, see the Plain White Tees, and have full-on conversations with the members of the band, the Plain White Tees. And I looked into it, and she does in fact work as part of like the representation for the Plain White Tees, or at least she did. And she made a book trailer that said that the movie for this book, which is never going to happen, but she was convinced it would, was going to feature music from the Plain White Tees. But the beginning literally says, this is a work of fiction. The characters in this book are fictitious. Any similarity to real persons living or dead, wait, not dead, she spelled it deal because spelling isn't important when you're lying, is coincidental and not intended by the author. But you have the literal Plain White Tees in the band, in the book. What? It says, Tom wrote songs and for what I knew was really good at it. That's Tom from the Plain White Tees. Mike could play any instrument even though in the band he was mainly the bass player. Plain White Tees Mike. That's coincidental? All along, who knew? Lanny Sarams scammed her way to the top of the New York Times list with Plain White Tees fan fiction. She really is just like Anna Todd and E.L. James. Lanny just likes to name drop when it's not necessary, much like, in fact, sometimes exactly like E.L. James. Good lord.
Mama.
Yes?
Brandon won't with me.
Can you not touch that? Nope, nope, none of that.
Brandon won't with me be nice to her because he has to be nice.
He won't let you be nice to him because he has to be nice?
Yeah, because he has to.
Okay, sure.
What?
I'll be down in a minute and we'll talk more about that.
Say bye, Mama.
Bye, love you.
Can you blow her a kiss?
And where are we going?
Downstairs.
Bye.
Sorry. This book actually did a thing that E.L. James also did, where it was like in the book The Mister, he was like, I pick up my iPhone. And the main character in this is like, I grab my iPhone and turn on the camera. Bruh, I don't care what kind of phone you have if it is not plot relevant. And you have not written a plot, so you do not get to name drop iPhone right now. But how can anything be plot relevant in this book, honestly, when there is no plot? We're 25% in at this point and there has been no plot. Nothing has happened and nothing will happen. Repeatedly in this book, the main character gets kissed on the cheek, but the thing is that either Lanny is typing this on her cell phone and her cell phone keeps auto-correcting, or she thinks that the word cheek is spelled C-H-E-C-K, like the word check, because there's a typo 4 separate times of her typing the words kiss on the check. And unless everyone is going around like some sort of Scrooge McDuck kissing checkbooks, I don't know what's going on there. Her and Mac talk out their non-existent issues, and she starts starts getting into him, and she finds out from one of the many cardboard cutout people in this book who go away instantly because they are one-dimensional, not unnecessary, non-playable characters. Mac is hesitant to date anybody who worked in the circus because he previously struck up a sexual relationship with a girl who just like wanted to have sex with him and didn't want anything more. Okay, so like he struck up a relationship with this clown named Claire. Not a real clown. That was a joke, a circus joke. There's no clown here really except for Lanny Sarum for writing this joke of a book. So the background character says about this person, Clara is a terrible person. She makes Sophie look like Mother Teresa. Fun fact, Mother Teresa actually was not a good person. So her and Mac get to know each other, right? And what do we know about Mac? He says, well, my name isn't Mac. They just call me that because they were calling me MacGyver when I first got here because they started to fix things. If you don't know what MacGyver is, it's an old television show in the United States where this guy fixes stuff with random objects. That's all I really remember about it. So if you like fix something, people call you a MacGyver. It's like a pop culture reference. So they call him Mac because they previously called him MacGyver. And she's like, what's your real name? He's like, I don't just give out my name. She's like, well, I told you that my name's Scheherazade. He's like, oh, you're right. Okay, here's my real name. Okay. So he tells her that his name is Clark Kent, which is the name of Superman. Why on God's earth did Lanny write this? I don't understand. Like, you didn't just make he can fix everything. Like, you could have just easily just had his nickname be Superman. Why did you call him Mac? Like, I'm so confused. His name is Clark Kent. Superman was right there. I don't understand. Charles Spellman asks Mac, do you love Zade? And I'm like, wait, why has it not been told that that's her dad yet? Like, what purpose does it serve to put this off? None at all. Mac is like, I'm gonna call you Magi Girl. And she says, that has negative connotations in the magic world. And I'm like, bitch, what magic world? What are you talking about? Wait, so there's like a magic subculture in this world? This is the first time hearing about it. There is no magic world. There is only Zade doing random magic and like her mom doing tarot card readings in the beginning. Like, what? When she's not talking about the love triangle and she's talking about music, and then she randomly does magic like when she needs to put a tent up. Like, it's what? We get like 2 magic scenes, the tent thing, and then there's one where she is talking to this guy at a lemonade stand. He's making the lemonade and they flirt with each other for a second. The guy's girlfriend shows up. Oh, this is the most hilarious thing to have. Not funny like Lanny wrote something funny. I'm laughing at Lanny's writing where she the guy's girlfriend shows up and she's like, that's my boyfriend. And so Zade makes the lemonade stand basically like explode and covers the girl in lemonade, and it says, she was soaked, dripping from her hair to her fingertips, and as she struggled to get back up, lemonade started pooling around her shoes. I shrugged and declared, when life gives you lemons, and then turned around and left her on the ground. Ma'am, as far as like the lore of the particular magic world she wanted to create, Lanny has like the main character have this like weird moments where she's like explaining the magic culture, but it's so like, it was so weird and random and out of nowhere that a lot of it just didn't sink in. She has like, but then also some of it just felt like she wasn't really explaining magic culture. Some of it was just explaining like what Lanny thinks about like supernatural shit. Like one part was like explaining guides, like spirit guides, I guess. It says your guides are the little, and this is the main character's inner monologue, like talking to the audience in narration. Your guides are the little voices that tell you to slow down or buy bread or take notice of the cute guy in line in front of you. All those are direct communications from your guides or higher self. This is why a lot of people think their guides as guardian angels, because they are in a way guardian angels with great advice. Okay. Then she's at the mall and this random girl shows up, right? Who says some cryptic shit like, I know who you are and what you can do. And then they both do magic and then the girl leaves and you never see her again. Okay. The next time we see her actually do magic, Lanny herself, what? No, Zade. I mean, either way, it doesn't matter. It's during a performance and she explained that she's doing chaos magic to make herself disappear. Chaos magic is apparently dangerous, but what other kinds of magic are there? We don't know. Why is it that chaos magic has to be used to make yourself disappear, but all the other stuff she was doing wasn't chaos magic? Making a lemonade stand explode wasn't chaos magic? I don't understand. So she can do some random shit, make shit move, had a vision once, and later she can like collect people's memories. None of this is based on anything remotely resembling sense. She goes and does the magic trick where she feels herself dying, and instead of saying, maybe I shouldn't lose my life over a goddamn magic trick, she keeps going, and before she passes out, she tells Charles and Mac to call Della, her mother. Remember her? Me neither, because we saw her for like 2 seconds in Tennessee at the beginning of the book, and she hasn't shown up since. So then they're at the hospital, and Charles is like, I'm her daddy, and Mac is like, okay, cool. And then they're talking to the doctor, and the doctor's like, I run all these kinds of tests, I don't know what's wrong with this girl. And it never occurs to Charles that maybe it was the magic that did it, so it's a magical issue. And the doctor says, oh, this is the worst line I've ever read in a book, oh my god. I never thought I would say this, but I'm currently wishing Dr. House was a real person. It's definitely the kind of case he would solve. And by the way, you're being told all of this in, like, Zade is still narrating it to you, but she knows about it because she collected everybody's memories after, and it's so painfully weird. So then Charles calls Della and is like, hey, something happened to Zade, and Della's like, you have to bring her home and you have to get her to Tennessee, and Charles is like, okay, I'll bring her on my private jet, and she's like, you have to bring Mac with you. So Mac and Charles go with Zade on a private jet to Tennessee where Della's waiting, but then we get a flashback to when Della and Charles were together, and it says that he used to call her Deli as in sandwiches, which I guess Charles would claim it was a joke about his 2 favorite things, my mother and submarine sandwiches. This man wears gold cufflinks and his favorite thing is submarine sandwiches. Unless they are from Publix, I don't understand. So they're trying to explain to Mac that magic is real, and he's like the TV show Charmed, witches? And then he's like, I'm a Christian, I believe in God. And Della's like, well, God is magic, prayer is a kind of magic. And he's like, oh, okay. So stupid. Then she tells Mac that Zade was siphoning power from him when this chaos thing occurred, and because he left the room, she ran out of power or something, and it caused Zade to almost die. I don't know, it's so stupid. So he has to use a magic knife that Della created to fix the issue with Zade and say these words in, I don't know what language this is, or if Lanny just made it up on her own. And then, you know, I guess he stabs her with a magic knife, that's not a euphemism, and then she's fine. She's totally fine, and she knows all of this even though she was unconscious because she got everyone's collective memories at the end. Instead of just switching to third person, nope, just had Zade tell us what happened. And she gets the memories, and including one of the memories that she gets is Mac bumping into that girl who she bumped into at the mall, the nameless girl who she magic fought, and the girl just bumps into Mac and then leaves. And it's like, oh, this is setting up for the sequel that I don't want to read and will never be published anyway. That girl, like much of this book, like all of this book, was meaningless to the story. The book ends with her parents getting remarried. Cool. And then we get an excerpt at the end from the sequel that was supposed to happen that for obvious reasons never did happen. And it says they're at the wedding still, and Della says, Namaste, Aunt Aldith. And it says, I've never understood why we called him my aunt. I once asked my mom and she made it clear that he has always been a male. I guess as a child he wore makeup and female clothing, and so his nickname was a joke that stuck. If it's a joke, why am I not laughing? And so then Aunt Aldith is like, well, you know, has any weird stuff occurred, and starts giving prophecies and stuff, and have you been in contact with any other magic people? And Zade is like, well, I had a girl come up to me at the mall before the accident. She had powers and she attacked me and forced me to fight back. And Aunt Aldith is like, okay, cool. And then the book ends and then the excerpt ends. I forgot to tell you that the book itself, Handbook for Mortals, ends with Mac saying, is there like a book? Zade goes, a book? Did I hear you correctly? And he's like, yeah, a handbook for mortals. She has the longest acknowledgement section I've ever seen in my life. It says, to C.S. Lewis, Neil Gaiman, J.K. Rowling, Terry Pratchett, and Stephanie Meyer. She spelled Stephanie wrong again. Thank you for showing me how to create worlds and characters we all love and want to be. She also name drops a bunch of folks, including her cousin who is JC from NSYNC. So, cool. Or Backstreet Boys. Fuck. I just think it's so fucking funny. She put Stephanie Meyer's name spelled wrong twice. Anyway, that's it. That was Handbook for Mortals. I'm so glad this is over. Oh my god. Thanks a lot, Christopher. I'm just kidding. I've had fun doing all of Christopher's commissions. Christopher has a final commission for me this time around, and it is kissing the coronavirus. So we'll get to that shortly. Not today though, because I'm gonna go eat some pizza and laugh at Lanny Sarum. Oh my god. When life gives you lemons. This book wasn't the worst thing I've ever read, and it's not like problematic. It's not like triggering in any way. It's just stupid. Like, it's just utterly stupid, which honestly, like, if you want to read something stupid, which I know that some of you like just love to read stupid shit, which sometimes so do I, this could be that for you. If you need like a stupid plot though, it doesn't have stupid plot. It's just nothing. Like, it's just mind-numbingly stupid. But if you're looking for something stupid, look no further. I've got the rec for you. It could have been so much worse. Definitely could have been, it could have been something. It could have had anything. It could have had some sort of substance. It did not though, so that's great. Anyway, that's it. Could have been worse. At least we had some laughs along the way. The real Handbook was the hee-hees we ha-ha'd along the way. Okay, that's it. Thanks so much for watching. Leave your comments and questions down below. Like, subscribe, share the video, and okay, I'll see you next time. Bye! Before I go, I have to say thank you for being a friend to my potato search Marxist patrons, and those are Abby, Aiden, Alicia, Allison, Amanda, Andy, Angelica, Anita, Artie the Ninth, Ava, BB, Bethann, Ray, Caitlin, Carlin, Catherine, Kathy, Cheyenne, Chris, CJ, Corwin, Corey, Darren, Deandra, Deborah, Diet Goth, Dorian, Douglas, Ebby, Eden, Elise, Elia, Emily, Ava, Faith, Grace, Gracie, Haley, Hannah C, Hannah T, Helen, Horror Goose, India Inks, JT, Jen with 2 N's, Jillian, Joni, Jules, Kaylee, Kate, Catherine, Katya, Keely, Kelsey, Kylie, Laura, Lauren B, Library of Scars, Liz Cardigan, Luna Moth, Lustful Octopus, Martin, Maddie, Marcella, Marquita, Malara, Mary, Miriam, Model RK300, Moog, Morgan R, Moth, MXDS, James, Nat, Never, Nicole R, Nicole T, Nikki, Nyan Binary, Paige E, Paige P, Peggy Lou, Pixel Stars, Pierre Raytheon, Rachel B, Rachel S, Rachel who's my friend on Twitter, Reba, Ren, Robin, Rowan, Samantha, Sarah, Scarlett, Shanae, Shannon, Shayna, Sheena K, Sean, Steven, Talia, Tiana, Ursula, Writer A, and Yesenia. Thank you all so much for being a friend.